In India's history, there have been many man-eating animals and the hunters who track them. However, there is one leopard known as the man-eater of Pur, referred to as the Puli Pishach, which means leopard demon that became a source of great fear. The famous book Nine Man-Eaters and One Rogue, published in 1954 by Kenneth Anderson, provides a detailed account of this leopard's rampage. The leopard roamed two villages in Tamil Nadu, where poor people lived, Kumanapuram and Devarapati. According to available records, this leopard killed and ate 42 people. The leopard's attacks were mostly concentrated in these two villages, which were repeatedly targeted. It disrupted the lives of the villagers so much that many abandoned their properties and fled the villages, leading to mass displacement. The remaining villagers, terrified of the leopard, stayed inside their homes, tightly closing the doors and windows. They lived together, eating and staying indoors both day and night. The situation was so dire that even basic needs like relieving themselves had to be done inside their homes. This led to many health problems among the villagers. They would only venture outside when absolutely necessary, and that too in groups. Generally, the animals that turn into man-eaters, such as tigers, typically hunt during the day. The leopard, however, is inherently a coward and only hunts at night. However, there is an anomaly. Despite all the security measures in place in Kamanapuram, there was nothing that could stop the leopard's man-eating spree. With its familiar footprints, it silently moved like a death messenger, walking over the roofs of the huts in the villages. Then, it would break through the thatched roof and descend inside. It attacked its prey and consumed it in a beastly manner. The walls of many houses, made of coconut leaves, were shattered. It had no ability to resist the strength of the leopard. Anderson wrote about the cruelty of this leopard in this way. One day, it silently entered, broke through a roof, and after entering, it killed the 4 people who were inside the house. The district magistrate requested Kenneth Anderson to put an end to the leopard that had made life unbearable for the villagers. A group of helpless people, Anderson decided, needed to be saved from the bloodthirsty leopard. Accordingly, when Anderson entered the village, he faced another problem: the villagers' lack of cooperation. Normally, hunters who come to such villages like a savior to rescue people from a man-eating leopard are usually welcomed. However, this was not the case here because, by that time, among the terrified villagers, a superstitious belief had taken root. They believed that if anyone helped the hunter to catch the leopard, or followed him, the leopard would take revenge on the person who had assisted. This lack of cooperation greatly frustrated him. After arranging a chair from a nearby house, Anderson positioned himself beneath a very tall wall, sitting next to it, and waited alone that night to hunt the man-eating leopard. He cut thorny plants, commonly found in Tamil Nadu villages, with long spikes, and wrapped them around the entire wall. The leopard had been prevented from attacking from behind as part of his precautionary measures. He carried out all these tasks alone. To attract the leopard's attention, Anderson sang, hummed, and talked to himself that night. The eerie sounds echoed loudly in the silent, deserted village, but the leopard did not come. However, there was another benefit. By the following morning, the villagers showed a greater willingness to cooperate. During the night, the villagers watched Anderson speaking alone with both respect and fear. They believed that Anderson was speaking to his deceased ancestors. The next day, during the day, Anderson befriended some of the villagers, and with their cooperation, he began preparations for the nearby hunting area. After finding an abandoned hut, he set up a dummy in such a way that the leopard could see it from the front door. After leaving both the front door and the window open, he piled up some wooden planks inside the hut, with the Winchester rifle and a spear placed in between, and Anderson sat there. On the first night, it was of no use as the leopard did not come, but on the second night, it happened. Due to days of sleep deprivation, Anderson unknowingly drifted off to sleep. The next moment, he woke up to the sound of the leopard's growl. The man-eater had arrived, realizing that the trap had been set for it. Without giving Anderson a chance to react, the leopard quickly ran off into the nearby forest. Thus, the second attempt also ended in failure. It became clear to him that the leopard had passed through Kumanapuram. Naturally, he realized that the leopard would appear next in the nearby village of Devarapati, as its closest habitat was Devarapati. Without wasting any time, Anderson set out for Devarapati the very next day. A month earlier, Leopard had carried out an attack in Devarapati. Upon reaching Devarapati, Anderson found a large wall, just as he had in Kumanapuram, and wrapped it with thorns. Alongside the wall, there were also a few abandoned huts. This time, he had another advantage in his favor. Devarapati village was located close to the forest. The leopard is active at night, and if it is present, the sounds of other animals can reveal its presence. Moreover, by paying close attention, one can also determine the direction the leopard is traveling. On such a moonlit night, Anderson suddenly noticed a shadow moving on the dusty path in front of the hut. Anderson, who was ready to scare off a leopard by shining a torch at it, instead saw a thin, emaciated stray dog approaching him, wagging its tail. The poor creature's starving condition made it evident that it hadn't eaten for days. With its belly pulled in from hunger, Anderson snapped his fingers and called it closer. He then gave the dog a few pieces of biscuits and a sandwich. The hungry dog, relieved of its starvation, wagged its tail continuously, expressing its gratitude. After that, Anderson lay nearby and had a good sleep. In the lonely night, Anderson was content with the companionship he had found. Silently, he continued his watch. As time passed, the dog suddenly woke up, its drooping ears perking up sharply. It stared into the darkness of the street with fear and let out a nervous growl. Sensing an impending danger in the dog's expression, Anderson readied himself with his loaded rifle. Suddenly, like a flash, he saw a leopard leaping onto the roof of a nearby hut. In an instant, the leopard disappeared into the darkness as the moonlight was obscured by a passing cloud. Anderson realized he was in a perilous situation. The man-eater was somewhere nearby, but the darkness made it impossible to see. This was dangerous. The leopard could strike at any moment, without giving him a chance to react. It happened suddenly. The dog barked loudly and leaped into the street. Then, it stood looking up at the roof of the hut where Anderson was sitting, and began growling fiercely. Startled, Anderson got up and moved forward slightly. When he shone the torch onto the roof of the hut, he saw the glowing eyes of the leopard staring directly at him. It was crouched, ready to leap at him. Anderson only had time to fire without looking at the prospect of immediate defeat. Winchester 405 roared twice, shattering the silence of the night. Fortunately, one of the fireballs broke the leopard's head. In Gumalapura and Devarabeta, the actions of the man-eater during nights made one thing clear to Anderson from the very beginning. This leopard must have been a creature injured in an accident, something that naturally hindered its hunting abilities and speed. When the carcass that had been shot was examined, it confirmed Anderson's suspicion. The leopard had suffered a severe injury from a porcupine attack, with a quill deeply embedded in its right paw. This had disrupted the leopard's natural way of life. It was during that time that cholera struck these villages. The epidemic claimed many lives. To prevent the disease from spreading further, people abandoned the infected individuals in the nearby forests. This was equivalent to providing food for the starving leopard that could no longer hunt. Tasting the easy availability of meat, the leopard gradually transformed into a man-eater. This also marked the beginning of Anderson's long association with the stray dog. Anderson regarded this hunt as one of the most unforgettable days of his hunting life. Not for a moment did he forget how close he came to losing his life. Had it been otherwise, Anderson would have become the 43rd victim of the man-eater of Gumalapura. On the day he bid farewell to the village, Anderson loaded the strayed dog into his car and took him to his home in Bangalore. There, he bathed the dog, cared for him, and gave him proper training, naming him Nipper. From then on, Nipper became Anderson's loyal companion, shadowing him in many man-eater hunts for years to come.